Hey, how are you? It's Kevin Kenny hanging out here at the Billboard offices in New York City with a brand new episode of On the Record with our guests today, the gents from Enter Shikari. You guys just performed for us on Billboard Live. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us. Yeah, it's fun.
It was that was an interesting performance to hear. Yeah, it is early. It's not even noon as we tape this right now. But it was an interesting performance because you guys have such a unique sound. You stripped it down for us here in the office.
Yeah, it's kind of the bare bones. Just me and Rory C, a keyboard, a guitar, which is quite nice. It gives a sort of a new insight into the songs, I think. So yeah.
It's cool. I've been seeing you guys at a couple different places doing these acoustic sets while you're here in town, and the comments are always like, "We need an acoustic album," or like some sort of EP. Yeah. Like the fans are loving it, just seeing this different side of you guys.
Yeah, it's never enough. We just released an album. They're like, "We want another one."
It's like we're here literally to talk about the album. They want another thing.
No, but yeah, we would love to do something like that. I think in the future, or maybe just record a live set, just release that. That'd be quicker.
Yeah. Well, you bring up the album. I want to talk about the album. The album is entitled The Spark. It is officially top 5 back home in the UK. So first off, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
That's incredible. And also, people have been, the rave reviews for this album, the response has been so tremendous. They're calling it your most ambitious album yet. They're calling it, a crossover album, whatever that means. But, the praise has been so high. And I want to talk about why people are saying it's ambitious. And sort of the past couple of years, you have had, really, if we're being honest, the world has had, and how that's really forced you guys collectively to write your most personal album yet.
Yeah, well, we struggled for a while, but I think we felt like a certain amount of pressure, really, because being a sort of a band that, delves into political commentary and music is quite diverse, and it's just like we didn't really know where to take it for a while because so much was going on in the world, like so much was going on in my life as well. And yeah, so it took a while, but then I think we built up a lot of confidence as well. Like we did our first headline arena tour back in the UK last year, and it kind of, I think, just propelled us forward. Like we sort of realised how much extra creativity you can put into shows when it gets that size. You can really create your own atmosphere, your own environment. So we wanted to make an album that was as ambitious as the live shows have been, I think.
Right on. Rory, do you echo that?
Yes, I concur with what Rao just said.
Rory concurs. Speaking of the world that we live in now, politics, of course, you just kind of touched on that. It's almost inescapable both here in America and back home in the UK. And one of the tracks that I guess the whole album really addresses politics and the political landscape, today. But one specifically is "Take My Country Back" off the record. You say in that song, don't want to take my country back.
Yeah.
Want to take my country forward.
Yeah.
I'm probably paraphrasing there.
No, that's
perfect.
No,
is it? All right, right on. I know the lyrics. Tell me about the sentiment of that song and where that song comes from.
Yeah, it's kind of bewilderment at first, because like if you asked someone 10 years ago, like their opinion on nationalism, it would be it's kind of it's just there. It's not really a problem anymore. It's not going to be dangerous any longer, and it's just kind of blown up, and now like all around the world, and not just here in the US and the UK, throughout Europe. Like it's a real sort of driving force, and I think it's a real sort of backward way of thinking. It's very sort of cowardly, sort of retreating back behind your little thing and thinking everyone else is a foreigner instead of a human being, and it's just a really dangerous mindset, I think. So the song's about that, and also about how powerful echo chambers are nowadays. So especially with social media, having your view emboldened by only seeing things that you agree with constantly, and so then when it comes to a discussion with someone who perhaps doesn't echo your complete views, it immediately gets sort of fiery because all you see is stuff that you agree with. So
right.
It creates just a bit of a nasty atmosphere. So that song's kind of the frustration around that.
Yeah, it's an interesting point you make about social media. I don't think enough people talk about that. Is if you only follow people that agree with you, like you said, it really emboldens your opinions, and I think could create some conflict there, like you're kind of talking about.
Yeah.
Another, if you're moving down the track list now, Airfield's another song on this record, and a sentiment or a lyric that caught my attention that I wanted to ask you guys about is I think you sing on that song that people. You sing. I should say you sing on that song, but you guys perform the song. That people think things happen for a reason, but that's not true. And I was wondering if that is how you guys feel just about life in general. I thought that was an interesting lyric.
Yeah, well, it's funny because it's that sort of everything happens for a reason lyric comes up throughout like so much music, like so many big tracks use that, and it's just something that I think is completely false. Like to imply that there's purpose behind things, like even horrific things, is just like a really weird. I understand the sort of, if you're going through some hardship, then there may be some positivity that comes out of it, like of course, but that doesn't mean that the hardship happened for a reason. Like there's some sort of creator that said, I'm going to put you through hell just so you can learn this. Like I don't subscribe to that point of view.
Right. It's kind of wild. I mean, I'm kind of nerding out because I love this album so much. But another song that I want to talk to you about, really the influences that you hear in the music, is what was the final song, or I think it was the second to last song that you guys played for us here today?
Rabble Rouser?
Rabble Rouser. You almost rap on that song. I know Grime is sort of like on the rise, and I wanted to ask you guys about the Grime influence, because they're kind of making their way over here with guys like Stormzy and Giggs and artists like that. Skepta too, of course, you got to mention him. How do you guys like put that in the music? How does that infiltrate your sound?
Well, it's weird. The first kind of influence in that realm was probably spoken words. That's where what sort of influenced me to start speaking over music. But then we're lucky enough to have grown up in London and sort of watched dubstep and grime grow from the very, very early beginnings. So you can't really not be influenced by it. It's part of London. It's part of us. It's part of everyone in that area. And it's amazing to see how it's got this second wind now, this sort of second generation, and it's just got bigger and bigger. So yeah, it's incredible.
Is it Rory, I'll ask you, is it blowing up kind of over there? Because I feel like at least here, grime is like almost a buzzword now. You see the Sheeran, as you guys put it, Ed Sheeran releasing the album Divide, opening with the track Eraser. He's rapping on that song. A lot of UK acts, whether it's rock or whether it's traditional hip hop artists, they're incorporating that grime element. Can you kind of speak to that?
Yeah, it's like grime is definitely like the biggest emerging genre in the UK at the moment. You say it's kind of a buzzword over here. Like I didn't realize that. Because it's for me, it feels like such a quintessential English thing. But yeah, no, I'm happy to hear that it's spreading. But yeah, it's like one of the biggest, most I guess the coolest kind of genre at the moment in the UK. So yeah,
it's cool to hear it on your guys' record for sure. You talk about influences, you talk about the process of making a record. Something that came up, affected definitely any music fan, anyone involved in music, was the passing of David Bowie, of course, last year. And I've actually read recently you talking about how the unique effect that David's passing had on you, and sort of it was almost a gateway to learning more about your vocal range.
Yeah. Well, as you do when any sort of artist or celebrity dies, you sort of want to celebrate their life and delve into their sort of back catalogue. And I was always a fan, but I think the sort of week after just did exactly that. And me and my mate put on what we called a Bowie-oke party. So I was doing like karaoke of David Bowie for like a week, often just by myself. I had the free software that ran out after a week, so I was just cramming in as much as I could. And it's weird, being a singer, I kind of only ever sing our own stuff. So I found it really interesting, forcing myself to, incorporate his range. So the real sort of low baritones. He had an incredible range and falsetto, and it gave me more confidence, I think, as a singer. Really, just learning from him.
Yeah. Is he one of the frontmen? I mean, you're such a great frontman yourself. Was he one of the rock frontmen that you looked up to at an early age? I know you've quoted the Gallagher brothers as people you've looked up to and things like that in recent interviews. But who did you admire as a frontman?
Oh God. He was definitely there. The fearlessness, the sort of that progressive nature. I think we're a band that sort of is so relentlessly looking forward and trying to keep pushing ourselves out of our comfort zone and stuff. So I think that's directly from him.
Definitely. Talking about being a rock frontman, it's not an easy gig, and I know you've been really cool and open with sort of this back and forth, this pull and push relationship you kind of have with it, where you love being in a rock band, you love being a frontman, but you don't really want to deal with all the BS that comes maybe along with it.
Yeah.
Can you kind of talk about that? Because I found that fascinating.
I don't know. I always this question's difficult because I don't want to come across as the moaning rock
No,
star.
I know, but it's you get into this, right? And you want to just make music and play shows, and then you got to deal with all this other baggage that maybe you didn't envision as part of the dream.
Well, for me, music is just a way of connecting with people. So I love that, and that's what we are always trying to do in any way that we can. But I think a lot of the frontman thing, I'm quite sort of reserved in normal life. I'm not a very sort of, bombastic, buoyant sort of
walking down the street taking selfies.
Yeah, that's not really me. So yeah, that side of it, like the constant sort of intensity of it, I find a bit difficult. But that it doesn't really bother me because that's not what we're about anyway. We're not rock stars. We're like anti all of that anyway. So
yeah,
I mean that's pretty much what Rabble Rouser is all about. Really.
Yeah,
just making a poke at all of the people that like not just enjoy their pedestal, but like raise their pedestal and sort of, you know, distance themselves from their audience, which you get a lot in sort of the more manufactured, narcissistic pop music. But you also now get that being echoed in the underground scene, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, hats off to you guys for not getting sucked into those trappings, that as you do get bigger, and you guys have certainly gotten bigger with each preceding record, that you guys have remained true to yourself and sort of that anti-stance that you guys do take to all that kind of BS.
Well, you know, occasionally we'll get sucked in.
Rory over here, right? The prima donna.
I'll have a hissy fit about sandwiches or something occasionally.
Slap them. It's all good.
Yeah, I think that just comes from like us, like starting at the very bottom, and like I remember like the first like 100 gigs or something. You know, we must have played to a total of about 100 people, and then like. So we very much like steadily sort of did our apprenticeship and built our way up, and
came up the right way.
It keeps you sort of grounded and have more perspective on things.
Definitely. Well, let's look forward. The record's out again, The Spark. It's available everywhere. It's top 5 in the UK. So if you haven't heard it, go stream it, go buy it, pick it up. But you got tour coming up at the top of next year too. I think January 2018 this thing kicks off. Tickets are available online right now. If you're watching, you'd like to pick them up. What can you tell us about tour? What are you looking forward to? You talked earlier about how creative you got to be as a headliner for the first time. Are there any sort of creative ideas that you guys are bouncing around back and forth?
It's still early days yet. I mean, it's difficult because the venues are a lot smaller over here. But in a way that gives the shows a different atmosphere. Like it's a lot more intense and energetic, and you're obviously right in front of people, so it's easier in some ways to sort of connect with people. But yeah, it's just they're always like the passion over here is always like top. Like it's so good. So the shows just usually go off. So we're just really looking forward to it.
Right on. All right, well, guys, thanks so much for stopping by. The performance, again, it's available on our Facebook page, Billboard Live. 3 songs. It was terrific. You got to go check it out. And, again, the album, The Spark, available everywhere now. Enter Shikari.
Sweet.
Thank you.
Man. Thank you.